and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers and I have Joelle Jobson here in the roving reporter window. And Power Hour is a show we've been doing for over 8 years. It's all about Microsoft 365, mostly SharePoint, and all these other apps within Microsoft 365 like Power Apps and Power Automate, Forms, Planner, Lists. Of course, Lists is a separate thing now. It's just SharePoint Lists. And all these demonstrations that we do are geared towards business users who are not necessarily technical, and we do a lot around business process automation and just sort of more power user type content. So today you all voted. I sent out a newsletter the day before. You all voted for Microsoft Lists. And there are a lot of different updates have been coming out. Microsoft announced a lot of things back in November at Ignite Online. And a lot of those things they've announced are they've been gradually rolling out in the Office and Microsoft 365 tenants. And it looks like they're all there now, at least in my tenants. So we're going to use the tenant that you all are in for the chat and do the demos in there. Isn't that fun? So if you're joining for the first time, we have a lively discussion going on. We always have a live chat. That's the fun about having a live show. And it is held in Microsoft Teams. So wherever you're watching this video, there is a link down below that it has a form for you to fill out if you're joining for the first time. And then we add you to Teams as an external user. And then from then on, you'll just be able to go into Microsoft Teams and flip over to our tenant, IW Mentor Power Hour, and join in the chat. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen and we'll get started. And I'll show you, if you're new, I'll show you how to get into the chat. So let me get my desktop pulled up. Where's that? Okay. Teams. Okay, so we are in Teams. We're in a team called Power Hour in a channel called General over here. And I add a tab for each week I just keep the last few in here. So we've got today's tab here, and then it will look like this by default. And you can click this little conversation bubble, and then you can watch Power Hour live on YouTube while you chat with us. So hi everybody, there's our lively discussion. So let's get started. I'm going to go through all these list updates and we'll talk about them and we'll demonstrate them, and ask me questions as we go, and we'll just get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is here in Teams, in this team that we're sharing, I'm going to go ahead and add a list on a tab here. So lists, now Microsoft is calling SharePoint Lists Microsoft Lists now. Don't let that confuse you. If you're old school SharePoint person, it's the same exact thing. Microsoft has just put some dramatic improvements into SharePoint Lists and sort of rebranded them. And it sort of looks like it's its own separate app, but it's not really anything drastically different. Just at its core, it's just the good old SharePoint list you've been using. So I'm going to go ahead and add lists as a tab here. Now, of course, you all have access. Power Hour is a SharePoint site in this tenant. So you all have access to that, and you all have added a lot of list content and things like that in other demos. So that's where the data is that we'll be demoing. So I'm going to go ahead and add an existing list, and I'm going to use this work progress tracker. This is something that we've done demos on before. This is just a list created using the work progress tracker list template when you click to create a new list. So I'll go ahead and put that here. So that's a quick way that you can get to it. Let's see. So that is where, so here's the video Power Hour 2.2, and the work progress tracker is a new tab up here. So, and that's where you can go. You can go to the tab to create items if you like, as I do the demo, or you can go straight to SharePoint. All right, let's see, where's that link to go straight to SharePoint? Oh, keep moving it. Oh, I don't know. You know how to get there. Okay, let's go through the list. Now, the first thing that I wanted to do was add the tab to Teams so you can directly just be able to get to that list in a quick way, other than just going to the SharePoint site. We did already cover the concept of custom list templates. So when you go to create a new list, I'll go ahead and go to Microsoft Lists here, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. When you go to a list, you can go to it just in your SharePoint, whatever SharePoint site you happen to be in, but Lists is also a app just listed here in the app launcher. And this is another way that you can get to your list. So when you go to your list and your list app and you click to create a new list, or you create a new list from within a site, then these are the templates. And again, we had an entire Power Hour about the templates, and I also had showed you how to create custom ones just for your organization, and went through that process. So another thing that is huge, and this is going to be a good indicator for you to be able to quickly tell whether you've got a lot of these updates in lists in your own tenant, is going to be that board view. So when I click to, let's see, create a new view, look at this. So Joelle, had you noticed this before? Had you seen this existing, the board view? Pretty interesting, huh? So I'll go ahead and give my name. I'll just call it work board and go to board. Now, when you have this option that's required when you're creating a board view to pick a column to organize the board by. So this is going to be, it's obviously I've got a lot of columns in this list, and it's only giving me 3 choices here. So I can tell that these columns that it's letting me choose from just happen to be choice columns in my list. So those are the only ones that you'll be able to pick from in this particular option. So I'll just say by category. And that way I can just create a special view that is just a board view that is organized by category. And I'll go ahead and click create. And just like any other views in SharePoint, you can choose whether you want it to be a public view or private view. Private view means it's only you can see that view. It has nothing to do with permissions or security of any data. It's just you're creating a view just for yourself that other people won't see in the drop-down list. So now I've created this board view, and I can see all my other views that exist, and I can set this one as the default if I want to, but let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. So this is now what it looks like. What product does that look like a little bit to you, Joelle? What other Microsoft 360 product does that look like?
Something starts with a P and ends with a Planner.
Looks like Planner, yeah. So I feel like they're kind of merging some concepts now in Planner and Microsoft Lists. So this looks like, what are they called in Planner? They're called boards, right? No, they're called buckets.
Yeah.
Buckets?
Buckets,
Yeah, buckets, boards. So that looks like the exact same thing. So now we have planning, design, engineering, and marketing, and that is a column in our list that is a choice column. So I'll go ahead and open one of these, and we can see that we have the category of planning, and that is again just a choice column. So what we can do with these boards is drag things around. So I have planning, design, engineering, and marketing. I can take something from marketing and just drag it over here into the planning phase. So this would be kind of fun if you had stages maybe of projects that you're managing and you want to quickly move tasks or items from stage to stage. In this case, it's work progress that you're tracking, and be able to move something from stage to stage. Another thing that you can do is, and you all can add items to this list if you want as you go, is you can click to add an item directly to a category, and when you do that, it will fill in. Ooh, look at that. It's like pre-populated data in that list item. It will fill it in. See, this says category design, and if I go over here, it says category planning. That's pretty neat. So then I can say new. And you all check this out too when you go to this list. Stuff, Category, progress, I'll say completed. Priority, start date, blah, 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 blah. And again, all the fields that we have in here. So now I've added this new item here, and I can, again, drag them around. Pretty cool. And then also, I don't have to drag it around. I could just take like an item like engineering and edit it and just change it from engineering to marketing in here. And again, it's just a column value, and then it moves it. Then you'll see it over in the marketing category. So another thing that I can do in here is, so I could create multiple boards for multiple pieces of metadata that I want to arrange them by. So I can do create a new view, and then another board, and then this one can be by priority. And then in this board, I can move things like this doesn't need to be high anymore. I'm moving it to low. So again, I'm just changing the metadata when I do that. And again, when I click to add something to low, it fills in the priority for me. That's pretty cool. I like that ability to go ahead and where it's pre-populating that column. Joelle, that makes me want to hack into there and see how it's doing that and see what that URL looks like that's putting that data in there, because that's one of those things that's really common that people want to do with list items is pre-populate something, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder how it's doing that. Let's see. So have you all finding it yet in there? We're all talking about snow.
It seems like a lot of people don't have it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So feel free to try it out in here. Let's see. I'll refresh it and see.
I'm wondering if people still obviously this is like a replacement for the task list that we had in the past, and I'm curious. I wonder if people would prefer that like timeline structure, or if I don't think anybody really ever used it. That was just my opinion though. Or the Kanban board kind of structure. I'm like curious if people which one they prefer, because obviously this is like a new modern way.
View? The Gantt?
Remember the timeline thing in 2013? That was like the task list for a long time.
Oh, was it a web part?
Thing. It was like attached to the list though, so it was at the top of the list.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't its own. I think it had its own web part, but when you built a task list in 2013, it had this
wow, that was so long
top.
ago. I remember that now. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like this is like the replacement for that, because it's like the task view, right? Because we haven't really had a task list view.
Yeah.
Yet.
Well, that's a cool thing about Planner, that Planner actually lets you, you've got all your tasks there, and it lets you look at it as a schedule, and it lets you look at it as boards, and it lets you just look at that same list of tasks in different ways, sort of like this. And this,
it has all those.
This has the calendar view too, and we did a whole power hour about the modern calendar view. So when you go create a new view, a calendar is another thing that you have here. So again, you could use the same list of work progress tracking items and create a calendar view of it. So yeah, you're right. So let's see what people think about that when it comes to actually working in this list. And I personally like to just see a list, just plain old columns and a list of things, because it's easier for me to visually scan. All right, another thing we have with this board view is the ability to customize the card. And I feel like we talked about this when we talked about the new grid, when the new grid view came out. I feel like we did a whole power hour about that and about this card designer. So this lets you design the way you want these cards to look. So I can say I don't want priority there, or progress. Maybe I only want to see the category. I don't care who created it. So as you can see, as I check the boxes, it lets me immediately see what it's going to look like. So I can click save. So that's my card designer. And then we have advanced mode of the card designer, and that's going to be JSON. So JSON is going to be another, there's that whole PNP website that has all those cool things that you can do with JSON and displaying list items. And we did a whole other power hour about formatting lists and formatting views. then those concepts, if you know how to write JSON, those concepts could apply to, you know, having the ability to use that in here. So I wasn't going to get too nitty gritty with anything technical like that. I'm not going to advanced mode, but you can edit the card just pick what columns you want, and you can even move them up and down in here in the interface, and, you know, completely customize what they look like. So if you have a lot of cards, you might not want to show that many columns. You might want a more compact. Let's see. Oops. There we go. What did I do? Oh, I expanded it. And then I'm in card view, and I can still click edit in grid view. Oh, so when I'm on the card view and I click edit in grid view, it still just takes me to like a regular list of items. So that's interesting. All right. That was one of the first major things that I noticed in here. So I thought that was pretty cool, but that's just one of a long list. Now, some of these things that I'm going to go over, these are all part of this big list of announcements that happened at Ignite. And this is in a link that I shared in the resources on the post tab here in Teams. So those are all just listed in that one big post that Microsoft did about announcements. But again, some of these you might have already seen. Some of these we've even used here in Power Hour in other demos. So another thing is @mentions in the comments. So each list item, I'll just say that one needs to be high priority. I'll go to this list item, and I have comments here. And so I'm chatting, making comments about a specific list item, and I can @mention somebody. So you just type a little @ symbol, just like everything else in social media. You type a little @ symbol, and it lets you start typing someone's name. And so that's how you can, I think you get an email, right, Joelle? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you get an email when somebody @mentions you. And so that's what lets them know, and that's what kind of keeps that whole conversation about that list item in context in there, in the list, in the item, so that you don't have like a whole separate conversation going on over in an email, just a little link to the item and a whole separate conversation. You can just have the conversation in here so that other people that come along that are reading about these list items, that care about this work progress that you're tracking, they can see what what the conversation is happening there. So let's see, is anybody else putting little conversations in these? I'm going to go back to all items, and I'm going to look at, I can see here, make winter stop. I can quickly see this little icon letting me know which ones of these have conversations. And like I mentioned, this is something that we've seen before already in here. So look, there's their conversation about that. Now I'm trying to @mention Valerie, but she's external. So let's see. It's really just only giving me internal people in the dropdown. Yeah, so they're not really able to @mention each other. We can @mention people just in our company. So here are some like little fake users that we have in this little fake tenant. Okay, so that's that again is a good way that you can get people involved and have them getting the notification and getting the email. But once they get that email, then they're going back into this item, and it keeps it all in context. Go along those same lines of just the concept of teams and everything, all our conversations in there being in context. Now, what happens when I go to Teams and I go to the same list? It lets me look at the board view here inside of Teams as well. Go back to all items, and then I can also, let's see, look at these conversations. And so now I'm on a given list item, and I'm seeing the list item, and I'm seeing the comments. And it's interesting because it's still got this Teams conversation thing that you can do, but it's also got a comments panel that's tied to the list item. So that part is a little awkward, but it is two different things: the Teams conversation and the conversation on item. Okay, back to list. All right. Now, another thing that we have is the sharing links. And again, this is one of those things that might have been there for a while, but you can share individual items. So let me go back to just the list here. And each item, now you've been able to do this with documents and files in libraries for a while, but now they wanted people to be able to just have that same feature when it comes to being able to share just a particular list item. So I can click the little share box here, and this looks similar to what you're used to with sharing documents. So I can decide who'll be able to see this, and I'll say people that have the link, people with existing access, specific people. Again, that's the same interface that you're going to have just with sharing other things in SharePoint and Teams. I'll just share that with Joelle. And then I can also just copy the link. So maybe I'm just having a conversation with someone and I just need to quickly copy the link. I can do that from here too. So I can, now it's sending her an email. But I can also just quickly copy the link. I'll just take this one. And then just a quicker way of just grabbing that and sending it to someone in an email or in a chat. Let's see, I've got a lot going here. Any questions going on that I'm missing? Let's see. Oh. Yeah, so yeah, Annette she's kind of asking the same thing that I was just looking at. The conversations on the list items are not the same as the chat in Teams, unfortunately. Maybe those things will merge together at some point. I'm not sure. Susan said, I don't see the conversation on the list. That would be interesting. I saw some other people that were external users having that chat and seeing those little chat bubbles. So I think that it's there and they're able to do it. So I'm not sure what exactly you're not seeing. You should see those little chat bubbles next to list items in there. Only if there is an existing chat. And okay, so another thing that they've done is there is a Windows app. Have y'all seen this list app? So the way you can get to it is you go to lists here, and again, Microsoft Lists, SharePoint Lists are the same thing. You go to lists, and here you are on the main list interface, and it will probably pop up here at the top right the first time you do this. It did for me, but it will have a link to go install the Lists desktop app. It will say, have you installed the desktop app? And then let's see, here we go. So this is just a different list in that same site. It's the travel request, but this is in the actual Lists app. And it is just an app on my desktop. And this is cool because it will go offline and it will let me work offline because it's pulling the data down to my desktop. And that way I can just go straight to Microsoft Lists without having to be online, as long as I've opened it up before, installed it, before I go on a trip, go offline. Let's see. So where is the link oh, here it is. So if it doesn't prompt you, because it only prompted me once, if it doesn't prompt you, you can click the little help question mark at the top right on this main list interface and choose. You can get the list app for iOS, and you can create a list and do everything from within here. Where is the... you can also go straight to the recycle bin. Okay. I'm going to go... Again, I'm not sure why it popped up and only did that like that one time to get me to open the app on my desktop. Maybe it sees that I already have the app open, so it's not bothering to ask me again. What did Valerie say? Let's see. Oh, okay. She sent me a link to something directly in here by using copy link. Okay, so here's my app. And so again, works online and offline. It's very fast. I can go back to Microsoft List just directly in here. I can go straight to that work progress tracker here. Favorite the list. And what they're saying is when you go to the Lists app and you click to favorite it, that is what makes sure that it's available offline. And that is what is going to make sure that it's going to synchronize itself offline. So that's not going to be, it's not the most intuitive, but that's the spot where you can go to pull that thing down and make it work very quickly on your desktop. Has anybody tried that out? Any other interesting things about that? Do y'all think that's helpful to have lists offline? It seems like maybe it'll make it faster if you've got a big list that you're dealing with. And I can also do all the things like edit it in grid view offline here. Yep. Okay. Exit grid view. And I can go back to SharePoint, of course. And again, it looks exactly like everything looks identical to the way it looks in Microsoft 365. It's just in its own app. And you can refresh it too to reload, any changes that have happened. You also have an iOS Lists app. I am not going to share my, entire phone on, not going to share it on the screen, but I opened up a list and it's just called the new hire checklist, and it is in the Lists app. So it's an iOS app, and they made it sound like the Android app hadn't come out yet. If anybody has Android, see if you can verify whether you have Microsoft Lists. But this is cool. And one of the cool things about being able to work in lists in here on my phone is that with list item attachments, and they pointed this out in one of their big demos, is that you can you're just in a list item and you click to add an attachment, and not only will it access your camera on your phone, but it will let you quickly scan in a document. So it puts it in, you have this little document mode that you can put it in, and that way you could take your phone and hover it over it to scan in a document to put in as like a PDF or something as an attachment to a list item. So you can choose whiteboard, photo, or document. And that's similar to the interface you'll see in the OneDrive iOS app as well. So cool little kind of hidden functionality there when you're dealing with list item attachments. Let's see, you also have modern lookup columns that it basically doesn't seem like as big of a deal. It seems like you've always been able to just go to your list settings and add lookup columns there, but they've modernized the interface to what it looks like creating a lookup column just directly here on this modern sort of interface. So I'll go ahead and go to add column and choose lookup as I'm creating a new lookup column. And this basically has just been revamped. So I'm creating a lookup column. I pick which list that I want to look up to, pick which column. And again, these are the exact same options that you've had anytime you've been creating lookup columns in the past. It's just now it's modern. So that's one of their announcements, and it's not that big of a deal. And then you also have my lists in the left nav. So check this out. This just sort of appeared here. So over here, I'm just in SharePoint, and I have down the left side, I have my sites, my news, my files, and I have my lists. And this is kind of cool. Has this popped up? Have you seen this, Joelle? That this my list thing now is here, and it will let you go straight to all of your favorite lists you've been working on. So that way you don't have to go find that SharePoint site and go remember where it was. And you don't even have to go to the main lists app. You can just go do this little quick pop out and jump straight to it. So I can go straight to this product list. And then I also have another big announcement is, now this is not going to be a long power hour. Another announcement is the rich text editor updates. So I've got the ability to have rich text columns. So let me go back to that work progress tracker that I was working on. And I added a rich text column. So if you are trying out the work progress tracker list template, you'll notice that it doesn't have this work notes column. I went ahead and just created that. But what I did was I clicked to add a column, chose multiple lines of text, and then the type is multiple lines of text, and then I chose use enhanced rich text, basically pictures, tables, and hyperlinks. So I'm using the enhanced rich text in this column. So the first thing you'll notice is you have the ability now to do some cool rich text editing just right here in grid view. So that's going to be really helpful so that you don't have that sort of awkwardness that used to be there when editing rich text fields. So I go into grid view, and here I can go into this rich text field and just start typing. So some cool stuff. And I could just quickly do some bold and italics and alignment. I'll do a bulleted list here. Another thing. And these are just some quick things I can do. I can even add a hyperlink, but I can also pop this thing out, and it gives me a whole other list of different formatting that I can do in this multi-line text field, this rich text field. So I can go ahead and select this and change its font color to purple, change that to bold. Again, I can highlight, increase and decrease, indent, clear my formatting, and even insert an image. So if I choose to insert an image, this is one of those things that's still a little awkward, is that it's just going to ask me for a URL. So that's not the easiest. In the past, it's been kind of complicated whenever Microsoft asks for an image URL when you're inserting an image. It's kind of hard for like the typical user to know how to go find an image and figure out what the URL is, but they're getting there. So I'll go ahead and click the checkbox. So now I finished editing that one. Let's go see what it looks like. I'll go ahead and exit grid view. We'll go see what it looks like when I'm actually in full edit mode on an item with the rich text. I don't know about you, Joelle, but I'm finding there's a lot of coolness just in lists now that make you not need to have Power Apps and customize things with any kind of custom form product, because lists are so lovely now. And we had that whole other Power Hour about that form editor, right? There's just so much you can do. So I feel like a lot of things that there are a lot of things that people want to do to customize their lists and forms on lists that you might not need to have a special third-party product or Power Apps anymore, because there are a lot of just simple things that you can accomplish in here that make it so that it doesn't have to have that whole other level of complexity. Okay, so I'll go ahead and go back to my notes, and I can see this looks a little different. So I've got notes, which was just a regular text field, just plain text. But this work notes one is the one I added that's rich text. So that's going to have that little extra sort of a paintbrush looking thing. So when I do that, look, this pulls up an entire separate interface. And again, same things that I can do here. It just gives you this huge surface to work with and gives you the ability to have all these fonts that you can choose, font sizes, colors, highlights, and again, that whole other list of extra things that you can do. Do you all use rich text in your multi-line text fields? I find that doesn't seem to be something that people need to use often, but by default, when I'm creating multi-line text fields, I never choose the rich text option, unless they specifically say that they need end users to be able to have bold and colors and bullets and things like that. What do you all think? Let me see. What is going on in the chat? If you were adding a photo from Power Apps to a SharePoint list, would a rich text column be? No, you would just use the attachments, just the list item attachments. Because when you customize a list form and you just pull it up and you're filling out the Power App form and you click to add an attachment, it will just prompt you to pick an attachment from your computer and all that. There's also a new image. It's either called image or photo, a column type called image. So again, two different reasons why you probably don't need to that inserting it in the multi-line text field is not the only way to insert an image. It's actually the most awkward way. Eileen, you're talking about editing it in Classic. Why? Yeah, so, okay. Complex columns are a pain. Anything else profound? Let me see. Oh, yeah, you're right, Glenna. Rich text was not mobile friendly. So there are a lot of just kind of little things like that. It looks like that they've been improving and just pretty basic functionality, but the things that were very awkward in lists that they fixed. Okay, so that's the rich text editor updates. And then we also have in grid view, I'll go back to grid view. Where was I? Here, edit in grid view. I can go edit things, and then I have an undo button here. So have you all seen this appear? You can just make changes to a bunch of different things in just quickly in this list, but then have the ability to click undo. And so this is huge because it doesn't make you go all the way back out of grid view and then go to version history and then restore the previous version. It's just sort of a quick way of just getting back, just reverting a change that you just made while you were in the grid view. So that's a really nice one. I like that. Another thing we have is when you go to office.com, Microsoft Office Home here, office.com is a really good place for just as like a general place to get started in the morning, just a general place to go to see kind of all your recent stuff that you've been working on, have the ability to quickly create things, go to your own content. So office.com now has the ability to create a new list. So it's got this create section, and I can click list here, and that will prompt me with that exact same interface that I'm used to seeing, with the ability to pick a template to create a list and just do it just from within office.com. So that's just, they're bringing it all together and giving you multiple ways to achieve this, multiple ways to places that you can be when you're creating lists, and then multiple places you can get to lists once you've created them. So hopefully now you won't be creating a list and then losing it and not remember which SharePoint site that it was in. I've done that before. Let's see, what else? So creating lists from office.com is the last thing that I have on my list. Let me go over a lot of the resources that I've uploaded here for you all. Let's see, what did I miss? Oh, undo and list. You like that? Awesome, cool. Yep, undo and redo. Okay. Okay, so in the posts tab here, just in the chat, I went ahead and I pinned, I'll show you where it is. I pinned this resources for today about lists. So I've got a whole bunch of information in here for you. I've got this main blog post on the Microsoft Tech community was the one that lists all of those list updates that are now, it looks like, actually in most of my tenants. And then we have a full session at Ignite that describes all these list updates. We have a list resource center, a list adoption center, a day in the life guide. So this kind of explains if you're kind of teaching end users at your company about lists and what you can do with them and how powerful they are. It gives you examples, very specific examples to get people started with getting ideas on how to use lists. And then there was another one, oh, the lookbook, the list lookbook. So that's pretty cool. So this is going to be a PDF that's just got a bunch of lovely lists. So this is going to be more of along the lines of adoption, of showing people in your company what's possible with lists. And the key to me, Joelle, we've been using Microsoft Lists for 15 years or so. The key to me is thinking about, for people who've never used SharePoint Lists, Microsoft Lists, things that you do that are very simple spreadsheets that you might be, sending around to people, having people enter different things in them, or any kind of, usually it starts with a spreadsheet or some sort of list of information that you're collaborating on other people with. And those are the type of things that you're going to want to take and create as SharePoint lists. Where I used to work, my funny story about kind of getting somebody to start using lists is that this administrative assistant had a spreadsheet of all of the vendors that we do business with and all the information about them, their contact information. And she would take this spreadsheet and email it out to 50 people, all the project managers, and tell them all to make changes and updates to this spreadsheet of vendors. And then each one of them would email her back this spreadsheet, all separate copies of the spreadsheet. So then she would print them all out, and she had them all laid on her desk, and she was trying to figure out what was different visually, trying to figure out what was different and what people had updated in all these different copies of this spreadsheet. Imagine the number of hours that she spent doing this. So this is the kind of thing where you could just create a SharePoint list, Microsoft list, just send everybody the link to it, say, hey, go update your stuff. And then you just have it all in one place. You even have version history, so you know who changed what and when. You can export it to Excel. You can edit it in grid view. You can, again, just collaboration on live information as opposed to sending something out an email. Do you all have any sort of crazy stories like that about inefficiencies that you can solve with lists? Let me know. That's pretty entertaining. Sad and entertaining. But yeah. So let me go ahead and I'll stop sharing my screen.
I think the crazy part is that that was so long ago, but yet I feel like that still is happening regularly.
Yes,
like
yes,
still,
it's a timeless story.
Meet a customer, yeah, I meet a customer who's like, "Oh yeah, we just email that around."
Yeah, so those are the types of things that for you all to be on the lookout for in your organization to say, "Hey, Microsoft Lists, there you go." So it's not necessarily a matter of just sending out some sort of marketing blurb to people and saying, hey, use this new thing. It's for those of you who are in IT or those of you who are business users who like to make things more efficient. It's just kind of keeping your eye out for little things like that people, just processes that people already have, things that they're doing that you can point this out to them that would probably make it more efficient and save them hours of time. All right, let me see. I put out a free course this month. Did you know that? I think I forgot to tell you that, Joelle. Yesterday, I decided to make our site design and web parts course free in February. So I'm about to write a blog post about it, but I think, and I mentioned it in the newsletter that I sent out yesterday, but I'll go ahead and go to that screen and share that with you all. So let me share my screen. Okay, so on iwmentor.com, when you go to the plans screen, we have this plan that's called SharePoint Power User and Teams. And within that plan, one of the modules is called Site Design and Web Parts. So Site Design and Web Parts is the one that is, you just click enroll for free. That is the one that is free in February. So I'll just take this link, and that if you all are already an Ultimate member or you're already a member of that SharePoint Power User level here at IW Mentor, you already have this. It's about 3.5 hours worth of video training by Joelle that created a lot of it, and I presented it, and it's a lot of stuff. So here are all the topics you can see in here. I'll go ahead and copy that to the chat, and I will write a blog post about it. There you go. So you all can enroll in that for free and work through all this information. It's got site design, web parts, news, just all these different web parts, site templates, and even a quiz. Okay, let me go back to this. So you all enjoy that this month of February. And thanks everybody for coming. Any last questions? I am wrapping up a little bit early, but let's see. Oh yeah, Lori's saying she's created lists, but people still want to export it and have it in a spreadsheet. Just click that grid view button and you don't need to have it in a spreadsheet. So there are a lot of things you can just do directly in the list. That's hilarious. Yeah. I love you all. Y'all are awesome. All of your sentiments here that you're commenting about that frustration with inefficiencies. I feel ya. So Let's see. I'm going to go to our little schedule tab and see we are having a power hour on February 9th next week. So I will be sending out the newsletter for you all to vote for a topic the day before. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again. So thanks for coming. Have a good afternoon. Over and out.